Until the summer of 2003, there was a highway in the United States numbered 666, and it ran, with a kind of cosmic tactlessness, through some of the most hauntingly beautiful and hardest luck country in North America. From Gallup, New Mexico, north across the Navajo Nation, past the volcanic spire of Shiprock, and on through Colorado to Monticello, Utah, 100 in Cello, Utah, 100 in Cello mile marker. Drivers called it the Devil's Highway. Preachers denounced it. Souvenir hunters stole its signs so relentlessly that the state could not keep the route marked. Travel writers ranked it among the most haunted roads in America, trading stories of a phantom black sedan that charged oncoming cars and vanished, of packs of dogs that chased vehicles in the dark, of shapeshifters crossing the pavement at the edge of the headlights. And beneath all the folklore sat a statistic that needed no supernatural assistance. Mile for mile, this was one of the deadliest highways in New Mexico, a road where the crosses at the shoulder accumulated year after year. In 2003, the state erased the number from the map entirely, and when the new signs went up, New Mexico's transportation secretary stood beside the fresh shield and declared, to the Albuquerque Journal, "The devil's out of here, and we say goodbye and good riddance." And then, in the 2 months immediately after the exorcism, 6 more people died on the road. That is the story we are telling today. The story of a number that was blamed for a highway's sins, and of what was actually killing people out there all along. To understand how a road ends up numbered 666, you have to understand that nobody chose it, in any meaningful sense. A filing system did. When the Federal Highway Grid was created in 1926, branch routes were numbered by placing a digit in front of their parent highway's number, so the spurs of the brand new U.S. Route 66 became 166, 266, 366, and so on down the family tree, and the 6th branch of Route 66, running north from Gallup, received with perfect bureaucratic innocence the designation US 666. The engineers who stamped it apparently never opened the Book of Revelation, where the number is named as the mark of the beast, and for a few quiet decades it hardly mattered. The road was a remote ranch and reservation route through the Four Corners, originally stretching all the way from the Mexican border at Douglas, Arizona, to Monticello, Utah, one of the emptiest highways in the system. The trouble arrived with the traffic, and with the 20th century's talent for turning coincidence into legend. As the route became the main artery of the Navajo Nation's eastern side, connecting Gallup to Shiprock and the reservation's communities to the border towns beyond, its casualty count climbed, and the number on the signs offered every grieving and frightened traveler a ready-made explanation. The stories bloomed the way stories do on long, dark, dangerous roads. The phantom sedan, the hellhounds, the girl in the nightgown who vanishes, the semi-wreathed in flame running down midnight drivers, and in the towns along the way, the number's reputation fed on details almost too perfect to be accidental, like the Shell station on the rise entering Cortez, Colorado, right on the highway, whose letter S burned out, so that travelers on Route 6666 crested the hill at night to find the word hell glowing over the road. Arizona blinked first, petitioning in 1992 to strip the number from its portion, which was folded into US 191, and the state's stated reasons are the whole story in miniature, partly the satanic connotations, and partly the fact that Arizona, like everyone else, could not keep the signs bolted down, because a 666 route marker was the most shoplifted piece of infrastructure in America, pried off its posts by collectors, metalheads, and the merely amused leaving an unmarked highway, which on a road this remote is its own hazard. But here is the pivot, the part of the story that matters more than any legend. While the wider world was trading ghost stories about the number, the people who actually lived along the road, overwhelmingly Navajo, were burying the actual dead, and they knew precisely what was killing their relatives, because none of it was a cult. It was a narrow 2-lane highway with no median, carrying growing traffic at high speeds, with poor sightlines, brutal winter ice, livestock on the road at night, and, laid over everything, the corridor's oldest wound, the border town liquor economy of Gallup, where reservation dry laws met a strip of package stores and bars, sending impaired drivers and, so often, people walking home along the unlit shoulder, out onto the highway after closing time. The casualties on the Devil's Highway were mostly Navajo citizens, and Navajo culture, it should be said plainly, holds no superstition whatsoever about the number 666. The beast belongs to somebody else's scripture. But Navajo leaders and families recognized that the outside world's fixation on the number was, whatever its theology, political leverage, and they campaigned alongside the renumbering effort with a clear-eyed condition: change the signs if you must, but rebuild the road. So in 2003, with Governor Bill Richardson putting his weight behind it, New Mexico petitioned the National Highway Authorities. The resolution moved with unusual speed, and US 666 ceased to exist, replaced by US 491, a number chosen from the system's spare parts, and the great sign swap proceeded with the Secretary's cheerful eviction notice to the devil. And news cameras, and, within weeks, a fresh epidemic of theft, because it turned out the new 491 signs were being stolen too, now as relics of the number that used to be there, the highway managing to lose its markers both as the beast and as the beast's forwarding address. And the road, freshly baptized, kept killing, 6 dead in 2 months, because a highway does not read its own signs. What saved lives, in the end, was everything the renumbering had been a down payment on. Over the years that followed, New Mexico rebuilt the corridor in earnest, widening long stretches from 2 lanes to 4 with a dividing median, correcting the sight lines over hills and curves, rebuilding turning geometries at the junctions where left-turning traffic had been rear-ended for decades, adding lighting and rumble strips, and on the rebuilt 4-lane sections the fatality rate fell, measurably, dramatically, while the stretches that remain 2-lane remain, in the dry words of every assessment since, still dangerous. Think about what that sequence proves. The number was erased in a single summer with a few hundred aluminum signs and a press conference. The dying continued until the concrete changed. The devil, it turns out, was never in the numerals. He was in the cross section, in the missing median and the unlit shoulder, and the 60-year-old curve, and he was exorcised not by renaming, but by road work, which is the least cinematic form of salvation ever devised, and the only one with a track record. What stays with me about this story is how badly everyone needed the number to be the villain, because the number was fixable and the truth was expensive. Blaming 666 cost nothing and flattered everyone. It turned an infrastructure deficit and a public health catastrophe on native land into a campfire story, and it let the wider world enjoy the Devil's Highway as entertainment while the people who drove it daily attended the funerals. The renumbering was, in its way, an honest bargain struck out of a dishonest premise. The politicians got their exorcism, and the Navajo Nation got its 4 lanes, and both sides understood which one was the miracle. Drive it today and you can read the whole history at highway speed. Leave Interstate 40 at Gallup, where the road begins among the pawn shops and the trading posts, and head north on US 491 across the high desert. The 4-lane sections roll smooth and divided, the median a quiet monument to everyone whose death purchased it. To the west, as you approach the town of Shiprock, the Great Rock itself rises off the plain, Tsebitai, the rock with wings, 1,700 feet of volcanic throat sacred to the Dine, presiding over the valley as it has for 30 million years, sublimely indifferent to what any passing empire chose to number the road at its feet. Somewhere along the shoulder you may still spot a roadside cross, or a place where one stood. The memorials thin out on the rebuilt miles, which is the entire argument in a single image. Cross into Colorado toward Cortez, where the Shell Station's sign has long since been repaired, to the presumable disappointment of everyone, and run the last miles to Monticello under the Abajo Mountains. 200 miles, and if you did not know, nothing would tell you that this ordinary, well-engineered American highway was once the most infamous number on the national map, hunted by sign thieves, starred in horror movies, denounced from pulpits, and blamed for a generation of deaths it had merely hosted. The old 666 shields survive now in collections and on garage walls, cherished at last, stolen honestly. The legends survive on the internet, where the phantom sedan still makes its rounds. And the road survives as what it always actually was underneath the mythology, a lifeline across the Navajo Nation, safer now by the width of a median, carrying school buses and cattle trucks and commuters past the winged rock, proof of the least mystical lesson this series knows. You cannot rename your way out of bad engineering, but you can, with enough asphalt and enough grief, build your way out of a curse.